Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick minute to answer a question that I receive fairly often, and it seems to be a common concern for players, and that is how do I stop using so much mouthpiece pressure while I'm playing the trumpet? So whether you just think you're using too much mouthpiece pressure, or perhaps you've had a teacher or a colleague say, "Yo, you're using too much mouthpiece pressure, man." This video is hopefully going to help alleviate some of that excess pressure and get a handle on what you're doing. So I'll offer two bits of advice here. The first is strictly mechanical, and that is just how you hold your horn. Personally, I don't think that there's any need for some sort of like a special grip or to place your trumpet on the table and go up to it and try to play double C's, or tie it to a string from the ceiling and walk up to it, no hands, try to play a double C. I think that as long as you have a good, solid, fundamental grip on the way that you're holding the horn, then you'll be fine. So here's the quick and dirty on that. Left hand, make sure that you've got a solid grip on the instrument. You're not in danger of dropping this thing, and you have your fingers wrapped around the valve casing. Right hand, stick out your thumb straight, lock it out, place it on the first valve. Move the valves with the pads here of your fingers, and then your pinky will either float in the air or rest on the pinky ring. Now, just getting your right hand to start working like this is going to alleviate tons and tons of mouthpiece pressure, because it's typically this hand, whether we're gripping it with our thumb and our pinky finger here and jamming it into our face, that's probably doing the most damage mouthpiece pressure-wise. So as long as you're practicing like this, it's okay on the gig if you want to stick your finger in there. That's totally fine. But while you're in the practice room, as long as you're properly holding your trumpet, you're going to start to develop a way of playing that requires less mouthpiece pressure. Now, the second part of the equation is strictly about awareness and pacing. So, as most of you know, mouthpiece pressure is 100% required to play the trumpet. If there was no pressure between the mouthpiece and your lips, the mouthpiece would not be on your lips and you wouldn't be playing the trumpet. So there's no sense in trying to eliminate it altogether, because that's not what you need to do. The problem, obviously, is that when we start using too much pressure, we can damage the lips. This tissue here can start to swell. It'll mess with the vibration, the sound can get really ratty, etc., 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 and then eventually we just chop out and we're done. So what I want you to start thinking about is just to become more aware of what part of the register you're using that mouthpiece pressure in. So you can just play a simple major scale. I've got my practice mute in here. I'm in a hotel room right now. But so just play a scale. Nice and slow, slower than that. And just notice where you start to use a little bit more mouthpiece pressure. So say you get up to that top line F sharp and you're just jamming the thing into your face. And okay, cool. So then maybe go down to the F scale, play the F scale. How's the F natural feel? Still using some mouthpiece pressure, whatever. Maybe take it down a note, and you found the area where that starts to creep in. Now, in my own personal experience, I've gotten the best results from respecting that boundary and working within it or below it. So doing lots and lots of different fundamental exercises up to that E or that F until it starts to feel very comfortable and relaxed. So I might do some lip bending up there, bend that pitch, just hold it out, do a long tone, listen to the sound, try articulating the note, etc. Just some really simple, basic things that are going to get your brain inside of that note and help you find a new balance where maybe you don't need so much mouthpiece pressure. This is kind of contradictory to the way that many people do it, because we get in this mentality that the way to build a tremendous upper register is to just cram your face day in and day out until eventually you adapt to it. But I'll give you a little analogy here. There is a term that endurance athletes use called base building, which basically what base building is you spend a lot of time, many days, months, years, whatever, at a very, very comfortable pace, at a comfortable intensity. So if you want to be a sprinter, you're not necessarily going out there and running as fast as you can right from the get-go, but maybe you spend a couple months doing some light jogging just so the systems of your body that need to be tuned up to do the more intense work have a nice, easier, more gradual pace. And when you take your growth more slowly, then what happens is you develop more flexibility of form. So the way that we get notes out of the trumpet is all about balance. It's about the balance in our bodies and the way that balance relates to the instrument. There are many, many, possibly infinite possibilities, right, for how we can get a note out of this thing. But each of those methods of producing a tone has a cap, or it has a limit on the amount of growth that we're able to get from it. Or, as most of us think about it, how high we can eventually play. Right? So there's a ceiling to the way that each of those systems is going to produce a tone for us. So if you spend more time practicing in the comfortable part of your register, very slowly, listening to the sound, becoming hyper aware of the sensations in your body, then what's going to happen is you're going to find a wider variety of balances that you can use to get that tone out. So those are my two main suggestions: is examine the way that you're holding the instrument, just to alleviate any pressure right there. And you can check out the video under the Trumpet Foundations tab on how to hold the trumpet, and there's a little bit more of a detailed explanation there. And then the second thing is to just become aware of how much mouthpiece pressure we're using. How hard do you feel like you're blowing when you play the trumpet? Do you really feel like you're bearing down on it, or do things feel nice and open and relaxed? So yeah, just check out those two things and let me know what you think about this video. I hope it helps, and I hope that we can all start using more appropriate balances while playing the trumpet.